It's something I have been stewing on for a while, and I really just was curious to know why I'm in the minority in this regard when it comes to specifically original Tolkien stories. So when I say that, I'm talking about things where they aren't necessarily as adapted as like true to Tolkien's lore, and I don't mean going like so far out of the way that we're doing something absolutely wild, but like I use things like Rings of Power as a primary example where, yes, it doesn't follow Tolkien's lore to 100% accuracy, but why is that such a bad thing? Especially when I look at Rings of Power and what it does for me specifically, I really like the way that it captures the darkness in Tolkien's world. I Now I haven't read the books in a long time. I really have been meaning to try and do it again. It's just been a whole process that's not my favorite thing in the world to admit about, but we're gonna get better. Either way, when I think about Tolkien's world, specifically in the stories of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, I remember them being a lot more lighthearted, a lot more friendship focused, and a lot more like not necessarily peaceful and as if nothing goes wrong, but it was a lot more of a more hopeful situation for our heroes and for our characters. Whereas in Rings of Power and in the Ages of the Silmarillion, you get the darkest stages of Tolkien. You get moments in the Silmarillion like the death of Celebrimbor that really is just not a pleasant experience, even the way that Tolkien described it in the Silmarillion and in the appendices of the, or I might not have been described in the appendices of Return of the King, but I'm not going to go into that. But the way that Tolkien describes Celebrimbor's death is certainly not a pleasant thing. And it really just shows the darkness within Tolkien's world. Because when you look, especially even looking at season one does not have a happy ending. The Southlands are destroyed by the eruption of Orodruin, and it just turns the desolation of the Southlands into then what becomes Mordor. And then from there, the heroes are routed, they're broken, they've been dealing with the deception of Sauron under the guise of Halbrand, and it really just shows that the Second Age of Middle Earth was a bleak time and was not a time that people would consider pleasant. And I know that I'm weird from liking Rings of Power. I'm not, well, at least I'm on the weird side of the internet where I'm not afraid to make content talking about things that I do really enjoy about the show and really liking it. But I always feel like when it comes to Tolkien's world that it's become more than just a book written by an author. There's some books that are out there that get written that people read, they enjoy, and they move on. And then they move on to their next book. But people always, who are fans of fantasy, always come back to reading Tolkien. They always come back to the themes that he brought from fellowship and friendship in the stories of the Lord of the Rings to the protection of the world and even going into the Silmarillion of just these dark stories of deception, deceit, lies, and pain. And it just continues to be just this really beautiful thing that so many people come back to. And people even have so much inspiration to do something within Tolkien's world. It's why we have so many original stories within video games. We have, The War in the North. That's an original story based around Tolkien. And we have the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games that are also based around Tolkien, but are still very loose adaptations. And so much of, heck, you could even say Peter Jackson's movies are very loose adaptations with the way that they change things and have turned Middle Earth into their own spin and their own flair. And that to me is what makes Tolkien's world and what makes Tolkien so beautiful is that there's so many ways that people have found inspiration through Tolkien and have wanted to bring their own childhood fantasies into Tolkien. They've wanted to insert their own characters into Middle Earth. It's why Middle Earth has a big fantasy RPG system. It's why Lord of the Rings Online exists, because it gives you that ability to play inside of Middle Earth as a unique character that you get to build, and you get to adventure in Middle Earth and experience these key events from, in a way, your own unique point of view. And that, to me, is where the beauty of Tolkien truly comes, is it's transcended beyond just his stories. It's not just Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, Tolkien wrote The Hobbit, Tolkien wrote his books. He created something that feels so real that everybody wants to be a part of it. People who truly experience Tolkien and have the same effects like I did, that they really just they feel a connection to Tolkien and to the world that he created in a way not a lot of other books and other media have done in the past, at least for me. And so it invites then so many cool and unique minds to come in to Tolkien's world and to find things that they like and to add things around. You know, you look at the Rings of Power stories in the appendices of the books, not told in depth. There's a lot of summaries, and so the writers and show creators of Rings of Power have gone and created their own flair onto it. They've wanted to fill in these gaps that aren't always filled in within those stories. And I will even go on this whole other tangent and talk about the Silmarillion being that way. The Silmarillion itself is even a unique adaptation onto Tolkien. People will take the Lord of the Ring, will take the Silmarillion and hold it as true canon, but the Silmarillion was finished by Christopher Tolkien. But because the majority of the work was done by his father, it's still attributed as a book done by J.R.R. Tolkien. But Christopher Tolkien is the one who truly finished it. He truly went back, he took what his father had written, and he provided his own spins onto things to finish it up. He did what he could to maintain the true theme of what he was doing within those stories, but it was him who finished that work. And the same thing can be said throughout Rings of Power. The same thing can be said throughout Peter Jackson's stories. The same thing can be said about War of the Rohirrim. People are taking the stories within Tolkien based around the framework that he gave us from The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, the unfinished Silmarillion, and all of the other letters and original manuscripts, and they're filling in the blanks and continuing to build upon Tolkien's world. Tolkien's world has transcended in a way that builds for so many other minds. There's so many other people that go in to Tolkien's world inspired by what he created, and they want to build onto it. They want to make it bigger. They want to add more detail. They want to make it more expansive. And that, to me, is such a beautiful thing. It's more beautiful than so many other things we see out there, where people take something and just completely obliterate what was originally created. And I don't think that's been the case for any of these Tolkien original stories. They have been changed, yes, but they have been refined to fit a world that people love and that people care for and that people truly want to build onto and fill in areas that Tolkien's not able to because he has passed on. That, to me, is where the true beauty of Tolkien lies. Not just in his stories, not in the world that he created, but the impact that the world had for so many people. That's how it was for me. It's why I ran a Lord of the Rings themed D&D campaign for so long. It's why I want to continue to run a Lord of the Rings themed D&D campaign. Why I want to continue to run those things and just engulf the people around me inside this incredible world that Tolkien had created. Something transcendent beyond just a simple story. And that, to me, is what matters about Tolkien. That is the beauty of what he did. He didn't just create a world or create a story. He created something that he invited people into to be a part of. A world where people felt connected, a world where people felt friendship, where they felt pain, where they felt happiness, they felt everything. And now other people want to share it with others and introduce people into Tolkien's work and into what Tolkien did in their own unique ways. And that, to me, is a beautiful thing. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This was a little bit different than what I normally do, but I really just wanted to give my thoughts on this because the Rings of Power hate train has been a little bit too strong this time around, and it's gotten to a point where I just really just want to do something to just voice my own thoughts and opinions on this matter and be able to upload it. And just continue to build around an incredible world that Tolkien has created. As always, I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my Ko-Fi supporters. You guys are the ones that help to make this channel possible. If you would like to support on Ko-Fi, you can do so down in the link in the description below. And with that, you are loved, you are valued, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you would like any more Lord of the Rings content. And we will see you right back here in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.